When we talk about disasters, we often focus on the numbers. And in Indonesia's recent floods, the numbers are staggering. More than 900 lives lost. 916 confirmed dead. 274 still missing as of December 6, 2025. Behind each number is a family, a community, a story cut short. Provinces across Sumatra, Aceh, North Sumatra and West Sumatra are devastated. Survivors are struggling for food, clean water and medical care. But this was not just a storm, it was a storm colliding with human choices, global climate shifts and fragile infrastructure. To understand this tragedy, let's connect the dots. The immediate trigger was Cyclone Senyar, a rare and powerful system that formed over the Malacca Strait, an unusual birthplace for such a strong cyclone so close to the equator. Senyar did not act alone. Overlapping cyclonic systems, the northeast monsoon and La Niña combined forces unleashing torrential rains. Rivers overflowed, hillsides collapsed, landslides buried villages.
Tropical cyclones are rare so close to the equator, so it's not something that we see very often, and it means the impacts are magnified because local communities, have got no experience in this.
Rainfall alone doesn't explain the destruction. Decades of deforestation have stripped Sumatra's natural defenses. Mining, logging, and palm oil cleared forests that once absorbed water and stabilized soil.
Permits allowed 54,000 hectares of conversion, mostly for mining. Without buffers, rain became flash floods. Hillsides collapsed and water rushed downhill, sweeping away homes. Environmental damage magnified the cyclone, turning hazards into catastrophe.
The government admits this. President Prabowo Subianto pledged to halt deforestation and enforce laws. Environmental groups demand stricter action. Survivors feel betrayed, blaming slow response, refusal to declare a national disaster, and delayed relief. Transparency is questioned, accountability demanded, frustration boiling over.
In 2025, this was the biggest flood. Previously, we only experienced flash floods, but this was like a mini tsunami. The difference being that the water came from the river, not the sea. The conditions were as bad as you can see in the settlement. The settlement was completely destroyed, as if hit by a tsunami. Victims may not have been found yet and are more difficult to locate.
Every night, we hear people screaming for help because the water was getting higher, but we couldn't do anything. I had shouted for help because I have my baby, but nobody dared to help. And for days, we were so lost. We had no food, no clean water.
Indonesia's floods are part of a global pattern. Cyclone numbers have not clearly risen. From 1990 to 2021, they declined, mainly in the western North Pacific. Models even project fewer storms ahead, yet intensity is climbing.
The IPCC confirms more storms now reach Category 3 or higher, and rapid intensification is increasing, especially in the Atlantic and North Indian Oceans. Regionally, storms are stronger in the North Atlantic and North Indian basins, fewer in the Western Pacific and Southern Hemisphere, with little change in the Eastern Pacific. Fewer storms, but more destructive.
Cyclones feed on warm, moist air. As oceans heat, storms gain energy. Hazards multiply. Heavier rainfall from moisture-rich air, higher surges from rising seas, slower movement that prolongs damage. Climate change is not background. It is actively shaping every storm, flood, and disaster.
Yes, climate change can be definitely linked to the path and the intensity of the storm and more of the consequence of the storm. So we know that burning fossil fuels increase greenhouse gases emissions. This warms the ocean and the atmosphere. A warmer ocean can support stronger and also long-lived cyclones like this one. And a warmer atmosphere can hold more moisture. So 7% for each degree Celsius of warming, which means that when we have a storm, this storm can produce more rain and then more flooding.
Indonesia's geography adds another layer. As an equatorial nation, it experiences constant warmth, high humidity, and steady sunlight year round. Average temperatures hover between 26 and 30 degrees Celsius. Rainy season runs from November to March, peaking in December through February. Dry season stretches from June to September, with July the driest. Floods and landslides can strike anytime, but risks rise during the rainy season.
And climate change makes those risks worse. Warmer oceans, stronger cyclones, more intense rainfall bursts. The dots connect. Geography, climate, and human activity converge to magnify vulnerability.
So we don't have a consensus as a climate scientist community on the fact that cyclones become more frequent. But what we know is that the cyclones that we have, that are about in the same number, they become more intense. So they produce more rain, and so they are more impactful. So the same amount of cyclones produce impacts that are larger because they are all becoming more intense.
La Nina adds yet another piece. Cooler Pacific waters, strengthened winds, pushing warm water and moisture towards Asia. Rainfall intensifies. Combine this with poor land use, unplanned urban growth, inadequate drainage, construction in hazard-prone areas, and vulnerability skyrockets. Southeast Asia is warming nearly twice as fast as the global average. That makes it a hotspot for climate-related disasters.
And Indonesia, with its vast coastlines and dense populations in low-lying zones, is at the center of this hotspot.
One meteorological station in central Vietnam recorded a national 24-hour rainfall record of 1,739 millimeters. That's really, really enormous. It's the second highest known total anywhere in the world for 24-hour rainfall.
The response has been mixed. Survivors blame the government for delays and lack of transparency. Environmental groups point to deforestation and mining. Demands for accountability grow. Aid is arriving. The military expands relief. Malaysia sent doctors to Aceh. India launched Operation Sagar Bandhu for Sri Lanka. The UN allocated $2.6 million for Vietnam. And the US, Japan, and UAE pledged support.
Regional solidarity is strong, but needs remain vast. Indonesia's vulnerability is deep. With 81,000 kilometers of coastline, it ranks 5th worldwide for populations in low-lying zones. Cyclones like Seroja 2021 and Senyar 2025 bring torrential rain intensified by warming seas. Rising waters and land subsidence, especially in Jakarta, heighten risks. Without adaptation, over 4.2 million could face permanent flooding by the century's end.
Deforestation, poor drainage, and weak infrastructure compound the threat. Communities with little cyclone experience are unprepared, making rare storms catastrophic. Amid the tragedy, rescuers found hope, pulling a one-year-old cat, Embul, chubby, alive from the rubble after a week without food or water.
I have 14 cats here, but I don't know if all of them survived. I'm just happy that I have one with me. It's all right, Embul. It's all right. I'm so happy we found him. I couldn't sleep. After I got out of the hospital, a neighbor told me the cats were alive. They brought us cat food. The pet shop didn't even want to take our money because they too are victims of this flood. We help each other.
Hat Yai, Thailand, saw its heaviest rainfall in 300 years during the same storm. Impacts spread across borders. Rescue efforts in Sumatra collapsed. Remote areas faced starvation. Regional climate patterns, local vulnerabilities, and global warming combined into disasters that cross boundaries. Indonesia is acting, climate adaptation is built into national planning.
The National Adaptation Plan directs action across key sectors, while BNPB coordinates disaster management. Risk reduction is now part of urban planning. Early warning systems, satellites, and mobile apps deliver alerts, with BMKG forecasts integrated into a disaster prevention dashboard.
Structural defenses, dikes, dams, reservoirs, drainage upgrades are underway. Nature-based solutions, peatland restoration, land rehabilitation, watershed management are prioritized.
2 million hectares of peatland are targeted. Ecosystem recovery is seen as protection, not just conservation. Local wisdom guides watershed management. Communities are engaged through training, drills, and tailored plans. The Climate Village program, PROCLIM, empowers villages to adapt and cut emissions. Resilience is being built from the ground up.
The Indonesian floods of 2025 are a tragedy, but they are also a warning. A warning of what happens when rare storms meet degraded environments. A warning of how climate change amplifies hazards. A warning of how governance and preparedness can mean the difference between survival and catastrophe.
Connecting the dots reveals a picture that is both sobering and urgent. Indonesia's crisis is not isolated. It is part of a global story of intensifying storms, rising seas, and human vulnerability. And unless action is taken, locally, regionally, globally, the dots will continue to connect again and again into disasters we could have prevented. In the late 1990s, renting a movie meant going to a video store, choosing a DVD, and making sure you returned it on time to avoid late fees. It was during this period in 1997 that two entrepreneurs, Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph, began discussing how the internet could change this experience. Reed Hastings once returned a movie late and was charged a large fee. The incident made him wonder, could movie rentals work differently? What if there was no pressure to return a DVD quickly? What if instead of going to a store, a movie could simply arrive in your mailbox? Around the same time, DVDs were becoming popular. They were small, light, and easy to send through the mail. Together, Hastings and Randolph connected these ideas and created Netflix. It was an online DVD by mail company built around convenience and no late fees. Internet adoption was growing. DVDs were spreading fast, and customers loved the simplicity. By the mid-2000s, Netflix introduced a monthly subscription model, allowing people to rent as many movies as they wanted for a fixed price. But the real turning point came in 2007 when Netflix launched online streaming. People could now press play instantly without waiting for a DVD to arrive. As viewers shifted from cable TV to online streaming, Netflix grew into the world's largest subscription streaming service. It started producing its own original series like Stranger Things, Bridgerton, and many others, and quickly became a central part of global entertainment culture. And now, nearly 3 decades after it began, Netflix is attempting its biggest move ever. It is planning to buy Warner Brothers' Discovery Movie Studio and the HBO streaming networks in a $72 billion deal. If approved, it would be one of the largest deals in Hollywood history and would cement Netflix's position at the top of the entertainment world. But the size of this deal has raised major questions, and those questions reached all the way to the White House. At an event in Washington, D.C., the US President Donald Trump said Netflix already has a huge share of the market and that absorbing Warner Brothers would significantly increase that power.
Should they be allowed to buy Warner Brothers? Should Netflix?
Well, that's the question. They have a very big market share. And when they have Warner Brothers, that share goes up a lot. So I don't know. That's going to be for some economists to tell. And also, and I'll be involved in that decision too.
Did they make?
They have a very big market share.
This moment highlights how dramatically Netflix has evolved. It was once the disruptor and somehow challenged traditional Hollywood studios. But today, it is becoming something very close to a studio itself, with global influence over what people watch. Under the agreement, Netflix would gain control over some of the biggest entertainment franchises ever created. And that includes Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, The Lord of the Rings, The Matrix, Looney Tunes, DC Comics heroes like Batman and Superman. Plus, there will be HBO hits like Succession, Sex and the City, and Friends. It would also take over TNT Sports outside the United States. For Netflix, this is not just a content acquisition. It is also about subscribers. If combined, Netflix more than 300 million subscribers and HBO's 128 million would create a streaming giant unlike anything the industry has ever seen. Analysts say the move reflects a survival strategy in a fiercely competitive market.
I think Netflix is reacting to the changing marketplace for media and particularly for streaming. More and more, it seems that companies need scale. And while we think of Netflix as one of the biggest in the industry, you look at a Paramount, you look at Warner Brothers Discovery right now, and they just don't have the scale to compete. So I think that Netflix is looking in the future to think what it's going to take to maintain their position.
Warner Brothers, despite its legendary history, has struggled in recent years. Its library is valuable, but its financial performance has been uneven.
Warner Brothers has really been struggling with a mix of assets, some of them performing, obviously HBO Max being so powerful and the key to the library and the assets. Warner Brothers with Harry Potter and other very valuable assets. Batman is in there as well. So there is value there, but they definitely have had trouble uncovering that value to shareholders, partly because of the difficulties of streaming these days.
Still, before anything becomes official, US competition authorities must approve the deal. And President Trump has indicated that he will play a personal role in the review process. When asked further about the merger, he again underlined his concerns about Netflix's size. But at the same time, Trump went his length in praising Netflix's CEO, Ted Sarandos.
Did he make any guarantees to you about the merger if they do merge?
No, not at all. He came up. He was in the Oval Office last week. I have a lot of respect for him. He's a great person, but he's done one of the greatest jobs in the history of movies and other things. He's got a lot of interesting things happening aside from what you're talking about. But it is a big market share. There's no question about it. It could be a problem.
Experts say this means the negotiations may pass directly through the White House. And it's like any unusual level of presidential involvement for a media merger. Netflix beat out several rivals for the deal, including Comcast and Paramount Skydance. Paramount Skydance, run by David Ellison, had earlier tried to buy the entire Warner Brothers Discovery business. That bid was rejected. David's father, Larry Ellison, the tech billionaire and prominent Republican donor, is a close ally of Trump. Trump has spoken warmly about the Ellison family in the past, raising speculation about political influence behind the scenes. The Writers Guild of America has strongly opposed the deal, warning that combining the world's largest streaming service with one of its biggest competitors could lead to job cuts, reduced wages, and fewer opportunities for creative workers. They argue that antitrust laws were designed to stop exactly this kind of consolidation. Netflix's logic is otherwise. The company says the merger would expand its library, increase production in the United States, create jobs, and offer viewers a wider selection. It has also promised to maintain theatrical releases for Warner Brothers' major films. It becomes especially important now because Netflix would, in this case, own DC superhero movies, which perform strongly at the box office. But media analysts say the broader trend behind the deal is clear. Consolidation has been happening for decades, from Japanese companies buying US studios in the 1980s to Disney buying 21st Century Fox more recently.
Like, for example, in the late 80s, early 90s, we had Japanese studios like Sony and Matsushita buying the American studios. And also later on, we have Disney buying the 21st Century Fox. And there was a lot of discussion about this. I mean, there is obviously, we see the whole media industry's landscape shrinking, going into the hands of big conglomerates that now are not just in the media business, but in the tech business. We had Amazon buying MGM also just a few years ago. So yes, there is certainly reasons to be worried.
Even ordinary viewers are divided.
They will think that if HBO and Netflix, come together, there will be, one rather than two subscriptions. There will be, more shows in one place, and they would be very happy with that. On the other hand, there are a lot of people who actually, want the diversity. HBO has been spending a lot more emphasis on developing those shows. Netflix did it at the beginning, but because of the volume of shows it produces, it doesn't do that as much, and that's why a lot of the Netflix shows they just disappear every 1 or 2 seasons. But the key thing is that for a lot of viewers, this is good news, but for others, it's not, I think.
Filmmakers are voicing concerns too. Directors like James Cameron have warned that the deal could be a disaster for Hollywood, especially as the industry already faces job losses, fewer productions, and the rise of artificial intelligence. Many fear that if Netflix gains too much control, theatrical movie-going also could reduce further, especially since Netflix's own leadership has previously called the cinema experience an outdated concept. Meanwhile, the deal faces practical challenges. Warner Brothers Discovery must first spin off the parts of its business that are not included, such as CNN, Discovery, and Eurosport. And rival bidder Paramount Skydance may still try to persuade shareholders it offers a better option. Regulators will also have to decide how to define the market. If they focus only on streaming platforms, Netflix's enlarged size may be alarming for few. But if they consider cable TV, broadcast networks, and even YouTube as competitors, Netflix's position looks less dominant. Traditional studios and cable networks, which have been the backbone of Hollywood for decades, are struggling to survive. Streaming is now becoming mainstream. So one thing is for sure, whatever may be the outcome, this deal reflects a major shift in the entertainment industry. That's all in this edition of Connecting the Dots. We will see you again in the next episode with more raging issues. Until then, it's goodbye from all of us in the Delhi newsroom. This is Mark Lynn signing off. Take care and stay safe.